We're going to be talking to you about the Paris menswear shows. Joshua and I did a roundup a couple of days ago, so go and watch that if you haven't seen it yet. But MC and I are going to be going through a few more of the shows. Right now we're coming to you on Sunday night, so Paris menswear has officially come to an end. And actually something really interesting that came up was this idea of the archetype of the man, different archetypes we saw designers looking at. I think the first one that's really interesting to talk about for that is the archetype of the man in the age of the internet at Loewe with Jonathan Anderson. This is something that Jonathan, we've seen him look at before. He's kind of really touched on it quite a few times at JW Anderson, his own brand. But he was specifically talking about that backstage at Loewe, the cult of the celebrity, or that image of the celebrity in the man means, how that kind of bends and how that changes. You know, we had kind of Jamie Dornan, the actor, on the front row with lots of the other kind of Loewe men, and then Jamie Dornan and others were displayed in digital church windows around the show space, which were created with Richard Hawkins, and they'd kind of changed from these ecclesiastical images into these shots of Jamie Dornan, but them kind of like posing, being weird and awkward, and then kind of like rubbing their beards, and almost kind of homoerotic ideas of the man, and this kind of sexiness that came through in the clothes as well. The show opened with these patent icky kind of looks with bows, these kind of little kind of tunic dresses, sexy open kind of shearling jackets. Doesn't assume that the consumer or the person looking or enjoying this is stupid.
I was reading something a couple days ago, and it was like, this is kind of like informational, particularly with the kind of overlord of the LVMH company, to where you have art now and it's kind of like subjugated by commerce, and so it's not really a tightrope. But the trick with these big fashion companies is, how do you mask the commerce and to where the patron sees the art, or the client or the customer sees the art? But it is both art as commerce. It's commerce masking art, or art masking commerce. And I love that he does that really well.
Jonathan, you never feel like he is bowing to this conglomerate that he works for. He's kind of said, this is what we're going to do, and look, it's such a great success, and it works. You know, the soundtrack in this collection was so weird and brilliant. It was kind of done by Frederick Sanchez, and it was this mix of kind of musings on that idea of being man, kind of talking about being photographed by the paparazzi, how that makes you feel about yourself. And then there were interjections of like Justin Bieber. Jonathan loves a kind of pop culture and mashup.
Fine art intersection as well. I just thought it was an idea of heterosexual foolishness as well, and how the heterosexual male has kind of changed the way that they peacock. And that they're no longer, there's a brashness with the heterosexual male now, and it's kind of embarrassing and kind of tragic at the same time, but they don't see that. And it's just this weird thing about like them taking from the provenance and the intellect and the history of the gay community, and there's this odd malapropism with how they execute beauty. It's always done dumbly, and that's all I'm going to say.
Are you getting that maybe because I wanted to talk a bit about these kind of full, almost stretch looks, like the sneakers which lead into the denim. Jonathan posted a great picture on his Instagram, which is kind of the jeans hanging up on the hanger ready to go, and you can see the shoes kind of flopping off, almost like a little, like a kind of puppet.
No, not so much with the clothes, more so think about how Jamie Dornan and Josh O'Connor, I think 3 of the other stars there, were invited to just kind of like take off and be a little sexy and give us a little bit of a show. And so that just made me think about just like cisgendered males and this kind of contemporary foolishness that their psychology's under. So we'll talk about that sometime later. But
I liked how Richard Hawkins' work around the space, which created this kind of these images of kind of homoeroticism, how they then fed into the clothes through the kind of embroidery, those kind of pants, almost muumuus. Which actually, I was going to say, reminded me of Autumn 21, that lockdown collection.
The Joe Brainard one. Yeah, that was a great
those
one.
like flower kind of patchwork pieces. It reminded me slightly of those, and I liked that.
There was a lot of crossover in that collection. Like Hetty saw the show yesterday. I saw the Reese. I went to the Reese this afternoon, and I noticed like so much, like the crossover between the Brain Art collection and the Hawkins collection. A lot of the weird sexual bits just kind of like at odds, but the silhouette was a lot bloomier this time. And yeah, those weird kind of macrame flowers from Autumn Winter 21 jumping back over to be kind of, I don't know, Muppety yet disco-y and fringy.
I like the Muppetness of this.
Yeah, and also just like bulkier volume too. Just from a technical standpoint, the heft of those clothes was really alluring. I really enjoyed the kind of technical interplay and not really innovation, but just like the effortlessness of this like Spanish leather luxury operation, making Python smell like leather, making Python feel like leather, having an argument with an AIPR rep saying, this is leather. No, this is Python. No, that's Python. That's leather. And that's just Loewe, where, you know, they trick your mind a little bit and it gets intoxicating.
I like a show that can make you think and doesn't rely on having to have a show, which is like, I couldn't actually off the top of my head tell you a bag which is in this collection. It wasn't about the accessories. It was about ideas through clothes, which is like, you know, for a leather goods house as well, is so refreshing.
Oh yeah.
Someone who we love, well, two people that we love very dearly. Ernest W. Baker, Read and Enish, and I'm gonna let you take to the floor here.
Oh, okay. Read and Enish, Read and Enish, Read and Enish. At this point, it shows to the audience, you know, we love Ernest W. Baker. We write about them, we rant about them, we Instagram story about them. We love Read and Enish, right? They started 8 years ago, and you know, it's always been this idea of nostalgia based upon Reed's grandfather, but as the years have gone by, they kind of like thread the nostalgia into this like narrative, right? This kind of narrative of family, really, you know, like this idea of the grandmother, an idea of a family vacation. And this time we kind of sat around and we looked at they've done another fashion film with Vladimir, and we kind of looked at what that was about, and they were thinking about, well, you know, we did the family vacation thing, and we do still want to keep a nostalgia loop going because it's what we do and what we know. And so we looked at a bingo hall, oddly and
I love these photos, they're so fab.
They really are. And you know, we looked at a bingo hall in Porto, and you know, we were thinking about the idea of prizes, and when you're a kid and you get these prizes and it feels like the greatest thing in your life. But you know, what does that really mean? And so, you know, I was thinking about, you know, because you tend to overthink sometimes, and I was thinking, it seems like this really weird, tragic end to the summer vacation where the kids have realized this is the trip from hell, or they realize we didn't realize how we had it so good when we were being driven around, and now we're competing, and what does it mean? And so we had a laugh about it, and like, you know, we were really just thinking about what does it mean when you win something? Is winning the end point? Is the prize the end point? And you know, like, and they would think about Generation Z and how like the idea of like the participation trophy, and is that necessary? Is that important? And then, you know, they were recognized for their contribution to menswear, and they should be. In Portugal, they were GQ Designers of the Year, and they were kind of like conflicted about that win or victory. And so just looking at notoriety and what that means. And so, you know, putting all this in a bingo hall where you win trophies at this specific bingo hall night by night. So they were thinking, let's put that mindset into this venue. Let's add some great lighting in Vladimir's way with posing, shadowing, and, you know, putting everything and making it magical in post-production, and see what we end up with. What we end up with are, you know, familiar Ernest W. Baker staples. New this season would be what you called the rock stud earlier. You know, these gold-studded bits, which you think of with Valentino. You also think about one of those early Riccardo Tisci collections for Givenchy. It was Autumn Winter 07. It was fantastic. And so they're doing it in their way, and it's more so an accent and not so like the pièce de résistance. You know, the pièce for them is always the tailoring. Your 120s wool for your menswear, dead stock flannel wool for formaler iterations. Absolutely, I've got some great PVC offerings. That the great knitwear. The knitwear. Okay.
The crochet knitwear cardigans are just like,
they're beyond. They're, you know, they're in maroon or ox blood if you want to get haughty with it. And it's this like 80-year-old woman who just is hanging out babysitting. Again, the family narrative in real time. Just babysitting whoever. And they come in and they're like, hey, you know, collaborator friend, we were thinking about doing these really specific hearts or these really specific florals, probably roses because it's Ernest W. Baker. And she's like, okay, I'll do it in 2 days. And so it really is just this lived family experience, right, in real time. And what else was new? So I think it was last season, right? Last fall, actually. And they had this like shearling, and it looked like shaved mink, where shearling shoes are quite curlicued. But they wanted the shearling just like shaved down. This time, it's updated in kind of gold. And so that's kind of fun and interesting.
Mustard?
Yeah.
The mustard section.
The mustard section, oh my God.
It's a great kind of like the classic kind of Chanel-esque jacket they do so well.
Seriously.
Here in this perfect mustard, it's like the perfect Dijon mustard at the pot.
It is.
With black leather trim.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like,
it's divine.
beautiful.
And then they pair it against the brown, which if you're an Ernest W. Baker fan or customer, you know that everything begins and ends with brown, quilting, and the rose.
Kind of where they start, because it's that idea of
Exactly.
kind of the musky grandpa, kind of, you know, that feeling.
Exactly.
You find it in the back of the cupboard.
Really,
Yeah.
you do. And it's a nice side. And it's the perfect extreme to that brown. It's a really good section. It's a small section, but it's a great section. And that Chanel thing, the dead stock flannel, it's in patent leather. I think it's in just a wool jacket too. Could be wrong. They've got a great chevron update too. Chevron started.
That's the thing, like you're saying a lot of the word update here, and I think that's really key, is that
continuity.
they've got continuity. They've really built up this wardrobe.
Oh,
like
yeah.
you walk over to the rail and it's like you've got your knit kind of vest, you've got your knit trousers, but then you've got kind of the suit you kind of overlay. You've got what I was saying to them earlier when I went and I was looking at the lookbook. It's like these are so brilliant as kind of one look outfits, where everything ties through from the waistcoat, or the not waistcoat, what am I saying? Like from the knitted vest through to the shoes, to the bag, to the kind of gloves. But then you can take those apart and they complete standalone pieces. You could get someone who's not quite like who's the most fashiony person ever, who could just wear that, and it doesn't need to be styled.
Exactly.
And they're beautiful pieces. They've got such an eye for kind of the material, the colour, the craft.
They do.
That continuity.
I mean, there's a reason that Pharrell and Helen commissioned them for a matching look, right? Because it's like they know what they're doing. They're powerful. They're powerful with continuity. They know who they are. They have a message. It's theirs, and they're in control of it, and it's great. In terms of the film is fantastic. The lighting is fantastic. The lighting of the bingo hall, that's kind of like red and blue lighting going downward, is fantastic. The opening shimmer, the lighting matches the gold studding. It's fantastic. I remember as we finished, I was thinking, were you looking at Scarface? Was that it? And so we talked about that a bit. Then they gave me some movie assignments. So I've got to do some 70s horror watching. I don't do it. But yeah, and so it's just, they just know where they're at, and the studio smelled of leather. They're working with new production this season, and it's successful because the studio reeked of leather. And when something smells like leather, and Loewe, you can attest it. It's gonna be a good day.
So from our favourite kind of grandpa,
I
want to talk about the ballet dancer, the ballet man.
Oh, Nureyev? Trees?
Yes, at Dior.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna,
not 2017, 2016
you know I love
anymore.
a show and tell. So Mr. Kim Jones this season was looking at Nureyev, but more the ballet dancer, but more specifically because of kind of the photographs taken of him by Colin Jones, and the photojournalist in One Life and also in Another Life, a ballet dancer, who was Kim's uncle. Also interestingly, Nureyev's partner, Margot Fontaine, she was kind of a muse of Christian Dior's, and she used to get kind of all her outfits done by Christian Dior, so it's a nice tie through there. But yeah, so Kim Jones was thinking about the idea of the ballet dancer this season, and this idea of kind of on stage, off stage. So the majority of this collection was more kind of that off-duty kind of ballet dancer, so a lot of ballet flats in this collection, so kind of like ballet Mary Janes, kind of with that Dior kind of oblique quilting to it. Lots of kind of short suits. This kind of just like playful little ballet guy who's kind of backstage. But then we had 20 couture looks at the end of this collection. So Kim does the couture and the women's wear for Fendi, just does Dior Menswear. So this is the first time he's kind of done anything couture for Dior Men's. But these kind of capes with their kind of colourful kind of stripes over them did remind me of old Ballet Russe kind of posters. They reminded me a bit of Paul Poiret, the French designer, who was very inspired by the Ballet Russe. So I kind of liked those tie-throughs, and I liked the idea that there was this kind of character this season. The show was definitely a spectacle when these couture looks started to come out in the circular space. The set actually divided into two and rose up, which kind of got a huge applause from the audience. So I quite like this idea of kind of the ballet guy. I think it's fun to see to see Kim maybe move away slightly from the kind of full, beautiful kind of Dior Men suit that he always does, and to play with this kind of more feminine energy that maybe we don't associate so much with Kim Jones. But I don't know what you think.
I mean, I think that it's interesting that he chose Nureyev, because this house has an odd kind of oblique history with Nureyev. John Galliano's men's collection, Modern Wardrobe 5, which had a direct nod to Nureyev. It's a great collection. So I thought that was interesting, and there's my full stop.
Kind of want to mention a few other people before we love and leave you. I think this season we got a lot of people that we've spoken about giving us fresh and considered approaches to their staples. I think another person who did that was Kiko Kostadinov. Gave us this kind of clean white backdrop, new kind of show space for him to show these kind of draped active sci-fi forms that we know and love the brand for, but kind of reconsidered, kind of felt tighter, slightly different, kind of pulled back. Others like KidSuper, however, felt more like self-indulgent kind of cliches of what we have already seen before at houses like Vuitton or Dior, by putting early 20th century kind of art, slapping it onto clothes, and doing kind of gimmicks. One of the models at the end, he was like wrapped in knitwear shorts and they unraveled as he walked. It's kind of relying on other art forms or gimmick to say that you're a designer and an artist, which I think is kind of lazy, to be honest. I think other negatives this season that we definitely both share in, Kenzo, Nigo kind of failing to capitalise on Nigo's cultural impact through his previous work at A Bathing Ape, but it fails to say something new in either women's or men's. Neither does it speak to the joy of Kenzo Takada. And then Valentino, a beautiful, simple menswear wardrobe, but Pier Paolo talking about this idea of this seal blue, this kind of turquoise, sickly blue, which personally I don't love.
That was the last thing I saw in the receipt today.
Yeah, I don't think it's a very attractive or easy colour to wear. Pier Paolo's been talking for a long time now, like you think about Valentino Pink, of using colour as a way to clean your palette, and then you concentrate on silhouette. And I don't know, I don't think that blue is very attractive, and I don't think it's really right to say that that's a judgment on or a meditation on what the modern man is and looks like. I don't think that that's what this collection did. Yes, it was beautiful menswear kind of clothing, but I don't think it did more than that, and I don't think we should read more into it. Closing thoughts
on Valentino
or anything that I've just said?
I just think it was a difficult season. If this was not the best season of menswear, I had high hopes for a number of designers, and a number of designers, left you hoping.
I think a lot of people went back to the rule book a bit,
I mean,
and it felt safe.
Yeah, I was about to say the safe word. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot.
What is our safe word?
Apparently, the safe word is bland this season, because that's been autumn/winter 24. It's been a difficult season for menswear. There's been a lot of nonsense, a lot of foolishness, and just people without a distinctive voice, and people without an authoritative enough voice to suggest anything exciting, anything sizzling, and it's a difficult season.
Très difficile, as the French would say. I'm never going to speak French again on our Thank you so much for joining us throughout this menswear season. We'll be back actually very shortly for Couture, which runs next week. So we will see you then. Good night and farewell. Thank you. Bye.